Recently, my kids came home from school with a book. It was issued to them by the school that I find completely unacceptable. It is bad enough that the school makes this book available, but it is included in the curriculum required study for every student. This book is sexually explicit and violent. There is no doubt that this book has the potential to corrupt young minds and teach them all sorts of radical ideas. The book is called the Bible, although it goes by a few other names: Tanakh, Eitz Chaim, Chumash. By any name, it is completely unacceptable and inappropriate. If you want evidence of the sexually explicit nature of this book, you need go no further than chapter 2, where you'll find the main characters frolicking naked in a garden without shame or embarrassment. Is this the kind of thing that you want our children studying? A few chapters later, a character named Sarah convinces her husband to have sex with their nanny. Later in the same book, two sisters marry the same man, and they compete for which of them he'll sleep with each night. Yes, my friends, I share your outrage that such material is being studied by children. Children! And then there is the gratuitous violence that permeates its pages. Early on, a character named Cain murders his own brother Abel. The bloody scene is detailed in chapter 4. Later, Dinah's brother convinced the men of Shechem to circumcise themselves, only to murder them all when they're too weak to put up a defense. Oh, I could go on and on. Wait until you get to the stories of King David and Eglon and Sisera and Samson. They make Game of Thrones look like Leave It to Beaver. And so, my friends, if you are concerned about the proliferation of profanity, if you are concerned about the purity and innocence of our children, then I hope you will join me in my campaign to ban the Bible. I don't know if I will be successful at banning the Bible from schools or public libraries, but at least we can begin here at Agudath Israel. Starting this Shabbat, I am forbidding the public reading of the Torah. And before you dismiss this idea, think of how much shorter the service will be without the Torah reading. We'll get to Kiddush way quicker. Do you think this is a good idea? No. Me neither. But book banning is on the rise in America, so there apparently are a lot of people who think that this is a good idea to ban books that they find offensive or objectionable. According to the organization PEN America, there were 1,477 instances of books being banned in a 6-month period last year, affecting nearly 900 unique titles across 37 states. As Rabbi Sharon Brous writes, school board meetings have become a battleground with seething parents amped up on the increasingly violent political rhetoric of our times, accusing teachers and librarians of grooming, pedophilia, and distribution of pornography. They threaten violence and file criminal complaints over books. More recently, state legislatures have introduced new laws deeming certain topics off limits to teachers. Some of these laws carry criminal charges, the threat of criminal charges for teaching banned subjects. Teachers have been fired for books they've assigned or for criticizing policy decisions of the school. Have you met many school teachers or librarians? They are many things: kind, knowledgeable, helpful, devoted, underpaid, underappreciated. Yes. Are they criminals? No. And they're not pushing an agenda of corrupting our youth. It's no wonder there are nationwide shortages of teachers. Who would want to teach in this environment? These parents, they say they're concerned with negative influences on their children's education. They claim they want to say in how their children are taught and what they're exposed to, but these challenges often focus selectively on books by and about people of color, LGBT characters. The most frequently targeted books include some of America's most celebrated authors, like Toni Morrison and Maya Angelou, And often, Jewish stories are on the chopping block as well. Do you remember when a school board in Tennessee banned Art Spiegelman's Pulitzer Prize-winning graphic novel, Mouse? I took this one personally because Mouse was a very important book in my own Holocaust education. Critics objected to the depictions of nudity and violence. Mind you, these depictions were cartoon mice. They argued that because the book depicted a suicide, Spiegelman's own mother, an Auschwitz survivor, died by suicide. They said the book was too adult-oriented for use in our schools. Another school banned a young adult adaptation of the Diary of Anne Frank. If you're going to teach about the Holocaust, I'm sorry to tell you, you're going to have to deal with some adult stuff. Otherwise, you'll get a whitewashed version of these historical atrocities, and then what's the point of learning about them at all? The truth is, it's not about the nudity or the violence. If it were, they would object to the Bible as well. Instead, it's about fear. Fear of harsh and unpleasant realities, fear of confronting embarrassing histories, fear of ideas that we don't understand, fear of people whose lives we don't understand, fear of a world that seems to be moving quickly in directions we cannot comprehend. On one point, I agree with these parents. We agree that stories are powerful and even perhaps dangerous. Books and stories have the ability to challenge us and change the world. Indeed, they're the only thing that ever has. But we disagree on how to deal with those stories that challenge and upset us. They seek to ban and erase. I think that's a big mistake. Instead, I would encourage these parents to teach their children to read with a generous but critical eye, an open ear but a discerning heart, to be well-rooted in values, in our values, to teach them values, but also to be open to the ideas of all. After all, as the rabbis of Pirkei Avot taught, Ezehu Chacham, who is truly wise, Halomed Mikol Adam, one who learns from all people. And I think those rabbis really meant all people. As Jews, we have always believed that the pen is a mighty instrument, that words create worlds. To be a Jew is to love words, to love books. Do you know who the first ones were to call us the people of the book? It was early Muslims. It's in the Quran. They call us people of the book. And we have fully embraced it. We love books. Think about how we show our love for books. We rise in the presence of our sacred Torah, a book, as if it were a king. We parade it through the congregation, as we just did. And when it comes through, we elbow people out of our way so we can get to it and touch it. On Simchat Torah, we dance with it. If a Siddur or a Tanakh falls on the ground, we kiss it as if it were a bruised child. And when they are no longer usable, we bury them in the earth as if they were a person who died. If you study Torah, you know that eventually you will encounter a passage that is upsetting or confusing, one which seems counter to our values and our modern sensibilities. There is an impulse in that moment to want to censor, to excise that verse out of the sacred text, to cancel the Bible. I get it. To be in relationship with Torah means being open to having your heart broken by it from time to time. But anyone who's seen a traditional page of Talmud or a Mikraot Gedolot knows how Jews have related to complicated texts for thousands of years. You'll know what I'm talking about because our Machzor, our prayer book, is laid out in the exact same way. The central text is in the center. It's right in the middle. But surrounding it on all sides is commentary, different interpretations from different voices throughout the generations, some in agreement with the text, clarifying a word or a phrase, and some with radically divergent viewpoints. Each gloss, each footnote, each emendation is a way of engaging with a living, breathing, ever-expanding tradition of words and ideas. Have you ever heard the expression, Shivim Panim La Torah? There are 70 faces of Torah. It means that a single verse, a single idea, can be interpreted in at least 70 different ways. 70 faces of Torah. The image itself is instructive and illustrative. It means that Torah isn't a lifeless statue. Instead, it's like a beautiful diamond with many facets, refracting the light of God's presence in different ways. And we are invited to encounter the text, but also to encounter the face of another when we learn with a chavruta, a study partner, or encounter the voices of generations of Jews who have been grappling with this text before us. In doing so, we come to appreciate the different faces and the humanity of different people. Our training as lovers of and students of the Bible enables us to treat other texts in a similarly open-hearted and reverent way. We must recognize that our perspective is not the only way to view the world. This is what Nigerian author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie refers to as the danger of a single story, when we only have one narrative about people because of what they look like, or their economic status, their political belief, or their country of origin. Well, we rob them of their dignity. But when we reject the single story, she writes, when we realize that there is never a single story about any place, we regain a kind of paradise. To ban a book is to deny the humanity of an author and to dismiss their perspectives as unworthy. I admit I've put down a book from time to time when I don't enjoy it or I feel like I've had enough. But I would never argue to remove it from the shelf of a library. It has been said that a book can be a window into another world, or it can be a mirror to see something in ourselves. In both ways, a book is a powerful tool to knowledge and transformation. And we must ask ourselves, why is it that some people would seek to deny us an opportunity to have a window into other worlds? Why is it that some people don't want us to take a hard look in the mirror at ourselves? What are they so afraid of? On this day, when we look for an image as the Jewish people that is so powerful that it will stir us to change our behaviors, stir us to repent, to change our lives, indeed to change our world, well, we imagine that there's a great big book of life in the sky and each of our names is being written down. We want to be in that book. We could have imagined a fountain of life or a tree of life, and each of us is a leaf. But we are the people of the book. And for us, the most powerful image we can imagine is a book. So can we live up to our name as the people of the book? Can we stand up for books and freedom of expression in the year to come? One of my favorite parts of this job is when I get to present the gifts to the bar or bat mitzvah. You know, a 13-year-old will come up here and they'll be on the bima. They've been working hard to prepare for the occasion. And I get to tell them, we're so proud of you. And we have some gifts from the congregation to celebrate all you've accomplished. It comes in this nice white bag, and I see their eyes grow just a little bit when I take out the gifts. They're excited. And then I take out the gifts one at a time. From the men's club, we have a siddur, a book. And from the sisterhood, we have a chumash, an even bigger, heavier book. And I watch as their eyes go from mild excitement to mild disappointment, like a kid who just got a pair of socks from their grandmother for their birthday. Oh, a book. Thanks a lot, Rabbi. I just worked really hard for this bat mitzvah, and now you're giving me more homework. But these are the perfect gifts. They're the best gifts we can give them. When my kids brought the Bible home from school, I rejoiced. I couldn't wait for them to crack it open and for us to read it together so that they might discover what I have, which is that these books are precious, not because they're easy stories to read. They're compelling stories for sure. It's a classic, an all-time bestseller. But these stories also deal with really tough stuff. They feature broken characters who came from a world that is different from our own, but whose struggles are similar. They make mistakes, they grow, they are striving to do their best. Do I need more proof of our people's love affair with books? Okay, I'll give a couple of more examples. You know, as a rabbi, I'm often on Zoom calls with other rabbis. It's kind of an occupational hazard. And I'm always interested in what's in the background of people's Zoom boxes. You can learn a lot about people that way. And you know what's almost always in the background of rabbis' Zoom boxes? It's predictable. Shelves and shelves of books. It's kind of like a competitive sport for us to see who has the most impressive shelfie. One of our synagogue's greatest assets is its library, and I'm grateful to Phil Kruger and his generosity. If you haven't been in our library or taken some time just to wander around them, I encourage you to do so. We have an incredible collection of literature and scholarship. It's literally overflowing the shelves. That makes me so happy. And this year there was a courageous young woman who, for her bat mitzvah, decided that as a bat mitzvah project, she was going to donate banned books to our library. Her name is Leah Koff. She's here today. I was so proud of her when she did that. And we welcome those books into the collection as well. As Jews, we know what it feels like when our books have been taken from us or banned. In ancient Rome, the authorities saw the Torah as a threat to their power and sovereignty, and they were right to think so. The Torah speaks of another king who demands our ultimate obedience. It has stories of struggle and for struggle and liberation against pharaohs, stories that have inspired many liberation movements throughout human history. Any tyrant would be nervous about this book. It's the same reason that the communists outlawed religion. It's the same reason that early American slavers gave a censored version of the Bible to the people they enslaved. It's called the Slave Bible. They were afraid that the stories would inspire acts of defiance, so they cut those parts out of the Bible. All of these oppressors banned or censored the Bible. And surely all of us are familiar with how the Nazis, Yimach Shemam, may their memory be erased from human history, how they dealt with our literature. Rabbi Brous was writing about her recent trip to Berlin, where she visited the Bebelplatz. Has anyone here been there in Berlin? It's a large plaza surrounded by magnificent buildings, she writes, the opera, a cathedral, and a university, all symbols of German culture and sophistication. But on that site, in May of 1933, tens of thousands of people gathered as the Nazi German Student Association burned more than 20,000 books in a fire. There were simultaneous burnings in dozens of German cities. 100,000 books were burned that day. The targeted books were written by some of the great thinkers of Europe, many of them Jewish: Karl Marx, Rosa Luxemburg, Sigmund Freud, and Bertolt Brecht. They were seen as evidence of an un-German spirit, symbols of decadence and moral decay. This was 8 years before the final solution, 9 years before the liquidation of the Warsaw Ghetto, but it was a harbinger of what was to come. The memorial that stands on that site today is haunting. It's a subterranean, empty library, engraved with a warning from Heinrich Heine, written more than a century before the Nazis rose to power. Where they burn books, they will also burn people. So the effort to remove certain kinds of literature here in America in 2023 should concern us. You may not care for the particular books that are being banned. You may not agree with the ideas in them. That's fine. But a Jew doesn't ban ideas that are frightening or foreign. We don't censor that which is unsettling. We need to combat these efforts to stifle empathy and understanding with an equal and opposite force for more empathy, more openness to new ideas and perspectives. So what am I asking you to do today? After all, I doubt many of you here are actively seeking to ban books. But I do think we all have an active role to play in this important conversation. Here are 8 recommendations for 5784. I promise I'll get through them quickly. Number 1, buy books. Number 2, read books. Did you know that Jews buy, write, and read books far beyond our proportional representation in society? Surround yourself with books, even if you don't read them, but try to read them. Some people even like to bring a good book to synagogue to help them pass the time. It's good to have a small book that fits inside your machzor. I actually have no problem with that. I think that's not a bad idea, but I also hope you'll put down the book from time to time and join us and pray. If your number 3, visit a library and check out some books. Support these vital institutions. Number 4, if your child brings home a book from school that has an idea that you find challenging or upsetting, I want you to decide now that you're not going to immediately go to running to the principal or the school board. Instead, read the book. Read the book. Read it yourself. And then have a conversation with your children about it. You are your children's most important educator. And how you handle this moment will show them how they should deal with ideas that they find foreign or upsetting. Ask them, how did you understand this part of the book? Share your own perspective. Show them that these ideas are not something that we should be afraid of, but we can also be critical readers of a text. Is there anything we can learn from this text? Try to find a point of empathy with the perspective being offered. Number 5, fight for freedom of expression in the arts. If someone boycotts a Broadway show, like as they did with Ben Platt's Parade, buy tickets. If someone bans a book, buy 5 copies. Number 6, do not support people who build their platform by using fear and censorship to gain power. Number 7, maybe this is a year that you want to get to know the traditions, the books of our people a little bit better. Maybe you want to deepen your own Jewish literacy. That would be wonderful. Susan Work has put together an incredible array of adult education classes. If you need help finding the one that's right for you, any one of us would be happy to help you. Number 8, last one, I promise for now. Can I share my big idea with you? Just me and a few of my friends. I have a dream that one day our synagogue would open a storefront on Bloomfield Avenue, and it would be a bookstore, a community space where ideas and different voices could be shared. It would be a celebration of books. Maybe this dream appeals to you. Maybe we could start a conversation about it in the year to come. On these high holy days, you sit in synagogue for some 30 hours. 30 hours of your life you spend with us. And throughout it all, there's a book in your hands. The machzor is your constant companion. We began last night on page 1, and we will patiently, lovingly turn page after page until we close it at the end of Ne'ilah on Yom Kippur. So in a moment, we're going to return to these books that are sitting in our lap. They've been waiting quietly and patiently for us to embrace them, and embrace them we should. These machzorim, which we hold in our hands year after year, have become like good friends. The prayers from these machzorim have touched our souls and elevated our spirits. Pages in these books absorbed our tears in moments of sorrow and still hold the echo of laughter from times of joy. We remember the hands of our loved ones who held these books and stood in this space. We can still feel their presence here today. With these machzorim, we shared our most private thoughts and feelings. There were years we came to the synagogue hoping for some unfulfilled desire, and years we came to offer gratitude for a new blessing in our lives. These books bore witness as our children grew year after year in their presence. At first, their hands were too small to even hold them. And then, gradually, those small hands became bigger. They started turning the pages more confidently on their own. They grew towards bar and bat mitzvah and graduation, college, and beyond. And we wondered, as they found their place in the world, would this book still call to them? Would it be an anchor for them in a very, very tumultuous world? Would it be there for them when they needed it most, as it has been for us? These books have guided our lives. They've taught us right from wrong, good from bad. These books have taught us how God wants us to live and to act. These books have enriched our lives and preserved us as a people. They are our life and the length of our days. This is the power of a book, and why they deserve our love and our reverence and our protection. May we all be inscribed in the book of life, and may this be a year of learning and empathy. Shana Tova.